This interview you're about to listen to was recorded on Tuesday the 19th of November 2024 in Spalding at the home of Peggy Ann Jones, 5 days before she sadly passed away. Peggy Ann Jones never fully realised how much she was loved and admired by the Gilbert and Sullivan community. Her friend and one-time understudy, Abby Hadfield, was with us, and we all enjoyed a fun afternoon with the opportunity to wander down memory lane discussing their lives with the D'Oyly Carte. This interview is being posted on YouTube posthumously as a tribute to one of the great Savoyards of the 20th century. Peggy Ann Jones, thank you and rest in peace. Hello everyone, this is Lawrence Lang and I'm still in Lincolnshire. Earlier today I was with Abby Hadfield, and now this afternoon we've both come over to Spalding to spend some time with the D'Oyly Carte legend Peggy Ann Jones. Peggy, thank you for agreeing to meet up.
All right, lovely.
You were with the company from 1958 until 1973. You joined as a chorister, but by the early 60s you had taken on most of the principal mezzo roles. Mm-hmm. Some of your successors were appointed straight into the principal roles. Do you think that it was an advantage working your way through the chorus to begin with?
Definitely. You've got a history and a tradition built in. You're so proud to be there anyway. But in my case, I was very, very young. I was very naive. I knew nothing at all. I don't think I even knew where babies came from, you know.
Right.
That occurred later on, very much later on. But it was wonderful. I'd never been on a train on my own before. So it was, I don't know, no wonder my father was biting his fingernails. Mm. But when I got there and I saw the productions, I'd only ever seen the Mikado.
Right.
But you get a sense of tradition and comradeship even from the audience in those days. I hope you do now. Mm. But I did love it so much. And the first thing I ever saw when the day that I got on a train from London and went into Exeter, where the company were playing at that time, and I joined in the middle of a tour.
Right.
So I went. The only place I knew to go was the theatre. I didn't know if I was going to have a bed that night.
Oh dear.
And I went. Well, it meant something when you're young and a bit frightened, you know. And I got to the stage door and walked in, and there were these two people, all dressed in black. The girl had a big hooded hat on and a crinoline, and the man had a top hat. And I'd walked into just after they'd done the Mata Mata trio in the second act of Rudigore. And that show became my well-known, I don't know what you call it, I got named for it.
Right.
That show meant an awful lot to me. But the two people there were Joyce Wright and Ken Sanford. And that sort of set the tone for the rest of my 15 years with the D'Oyly Carte.
So, did you actually like Gilbert and Sullivan much before you joined?
Oh,
we do actually have a plane going overhead, so if you can hear some strange noises, it's outside the room. So,
as long as we haven't bombed Russia, we're all right.
I haven't seen anything yet on the BBC website. So
no, we're all right.
We're okay.
At the moment.
Yes. So, what inspired you to join the D'Oyly Carte? Had you had a love of Gilbert and Sullivan beforehand, or
no? Not really. I saw the Mikado. I'd rushed to the piano at home and learnt to play the Mikado's entrance and things like that.
Right.
I was hideous at that. But no, not really. But I was doing amateurs. I'd done Rosemary. I played Rosemary in that. And, can't remember half of them. Only learning again. Learning again. But one of my friends in the amateur shows said, "Oh, look at this advert in the paper. They're advertising, the D'Oyly Carte are advertising for singers. Why don't you go down there and sing for them? You won't get in, but if you go down there, it will be good experience for you." So I wrote in, and they said, "Yeah, fine, come and sing for us." I was doing amateur singing, so I thought it would be all right, you know. I went and sang for them. They offered me a contract. I remember ringing my father saying, "They've offered me £6 a week. It's a fortune, Dad. Can I do it?" And he said, "Yeah." I really thought it was bags of money for doing something I loved. And anyway, they gave me a contract, and 15 years later I sadly left. But I was brave and got other jobs.
Yes.
So.
Yes, it must be difficult, you know, sort of leaving the security of a company sort of like that, where
Frightening.
You know, there is well, sort of hopefully known regular employment to going out into the big wide world.
Frightened you to death.
Yes.
Really. That's why you sort of cling to the company aspect. I forget what you asked me now.
Well, no, we'll sort of move on to something else. You were with the company, I assume, during a transitional time for touring. Train calls, cars, and then caravans. You did it for 15 years. You must have coped well with that lifestyle.
Well, yeah. I at the end of my 15 years, we started caravanning because there weren't the digs available, and they really were for more students.
Right.
They were going to make more money out of them than us. And the touring companies went down. There was just us and Carl Rosa, I think, you know. So we had a whole new epoch of, and that's where I met Abby. I met Abby in the company, but she got a caravan, I got a caravan. About half a dozen of us with caravans, and we had some wonderful, wonderful times. I used to get the occasional night off, so I would be doing supper.
Pinafore.
Yeah, Pinafore, yeah. And I did a few years of Pinafore, you know, you miss it, really. I miss being part of it. But we had wonderful experiences with caravanning. It was a different life then. Caravanning was a matter of gas lighting. I mean, it's so Victorian now, isn't it?
Yes.
Did I hear something? Oh, sorry.
No, it's...
Once in a wonderful Cardiff place, we had our caravans in the circle, and one of the nights
a bit like a wagon train.
Definitely, yeah, wagon. Yes. Beans are off the menu. I took my dog Judy for a walk. It's a lovely place, a park. And there was a bloke over there. I thought, what is that bloke doing? And I walked on a little bit further with Judy. And I thought, he's standing funny. He's doing something. I'm not quite sure what he's doing. I wonder what it is. I got close and I suddenly flipping realised that he was a flasher.
Oh, no.
And I stood there with my mouth open. I think he thought I was interested or something. I was too flipping amazed. And I turned round and we did a quick, swift march back to the caravan. And I told the police. And the policeman said, "Right, Peggy Ann, we've got all the information. Now, can you tell me what you look like?" And I went, "I don't know. I wasn't looking. No, honestly, officer, I wasn't looking at all." Oh, but there were one or two other funny things that happened in Cardiff, weren't there?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Yes. Well,
the toilet one.
the toilet one. Yes.
You know it better than me.
Yeah, we all had outside toilets.
Right.
Yeah.
And we had another flasher who kept sort of whipping the things back. But the one night I remember, I can't remember. I was off. I don't know why, but I'd made a spaghetti bolognese for everybody, and Peter said, "Everybody back to my caravan." I laid everything out. I got the red wine out. I've got this great big pan on of spaghetti. I've done all the garlic bread, and I had a little dog on tour with me called Cindy.
Oh,
And because Cindy was in the way, I tied a leg to the table that you very foolishly pull out of the side of a caravan. You know, not very stable. Well, I tied the dog to that. And everybody came home from the theatre. Peggy, everybody, Brian Peach, and... Hi, Abby, oh, your spaghetti smells lovely. And Cindy went, yeah! And removed the table and the spaghetti and everything. And it all just slid at a 45-degree angle out of the caravan. And Peter said, well, that's one way of serving spaghetti bolognese.
Oh, God. You've got to have a sense of humour, haven't you?
Oh, definitely.
God, you go mad. But, no, they were good days, Abby, weren't they?
They were.
Wonderful days.
So prior to the caravans, did you have any real experience of being in digs?
Lots, yes.
So any disasters from those days?
Abby's got a few of
Well,
those, and I've got...
Lawrence already has my 3.
It's got...
Yes.
It's got the
Sure,
flying egg.
I'm sure there's more than
not
3.
exactly, not exactly A1 accommodation, some of them. Some of the digs, were dreadful. But I look back at it with great fondness because they were glad to have the money.
Mm.
They weren't too particular about, if we made a lot of noise. If we sang, we used to sing, funnily enough. And I think you get to know people awfully well. I often ended up in digs with John Reed. And he became a lifelong friend, I do miss them so, Lawrence.
Yes.
But there's still a few dotted around England,
And I so wish I started this project 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So that I could have...
One interesting fact, Lawrence. When we used to have digs and the landladies would not let us in to waste their heating and lighting and sit in their lounge, we had the whole days to kill.
Yeah.
And if you were a member of Equity and you carried an Equity card, you could get into any cinema in that city for free.
All right.
So
And
we saw everything
exhibition.
from Ben-Hur.
Do you remember exhibitions going around the Ideal Home exhibition? And we
We
used
got in, we just waved your Equity card and we got in.
Yeah.
Because it was because Equity actually appreciated the fact that landladies were so awful to us.
Yeah. But we used to start at one end of the Ideal Home exhibition. There was a lot of cooking and a lot of food, and we'd be pig sick by the time we got the other end. But it saved us by. We weren't paid well.
No.
We had to watch the pennies. So if there was anything going free, we were there. Why not? I remember our first Chinese. God, I'm going back a bit. Our first Chinese meal. Jean Hindmarsh was the organiser of that. That was probably before you joined. And we'd never seen Chinese food. We didn't have Chinese food from a bucket, And they always used to say, "What money have you got left this week?" Call 3 and 4pence. Not much. And we'd put it all together, or the one person would say, I'll have a sandwich at home. And you have the Chinese meal. We'd club together. It didn't matter somehow.
No.
And I don't remember feeling hungry. I do now, but not then. Not then.
Live theatre is a minefield for things not happening quite as they should. Do you have anything that you can share with us of when things went wrong?
Most of the time, I think, really. I can remember watching the second act Rodrigo from the wings after we'd done our bit, Ken and I. I don't know, something must have been happening. I was watching it when the portraits all come alive.
All right, yes.
and it's all taken back. And Eric Greenall was playing. There was a cavalier there, flouncy curls and really tarted up, you know. And Eric was so good at it, and he looked so. But he one hand was over the shoulder, and there was all these lace cuffs, lace dangling down, and he was like that. And it comes to a part where they go, ha ha! I got my hands in the air, actually. Ha ha! And he went like that. It's lace caught, and all this lovely embroidery, but it was metal, you know. It was quite strong, and this lace caught on his shoulder, and that hand he went like that with, that right hand was stuck permanently with this blooming lace. Every time it went, ah, everybody else went, yes, and waved their arms in the air. And Eric's got his head down going, oh, bloody hellfire. And I fell about laughing, I'm afraid. I didn't help him at all.
Were you in the gondoliers the day that Anne Sessions and I held up Venice?
Yes.
We went on for the opening of, List and Learning,
Yes.
Dainty Roses, and somebody whispered to Anne Sessions, I haven't waited. It was the new Anthony Best set.
Yeah.
So we got the runners with the gondola.
Yes.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then we had the archway coming down the steps onto the main stage. And that bit of cloth was not weighted. And Peter was stage manager then. And when you finished that scene, the ducal party come on with Ken Sanford and John Reed and Gillian Knight as the Duke and Duchess of Toro, and Casilda and Lewis, and Sesh and I are about the last two to go off the stage, and somebody went, psst, Venice is moving, Venice is sinking. So Sesh said, leave it to me. So she put her hand like a Grecian urn on one side, and I did the other. And we're both standing there like this, giving it all. And Ken Sanford gets out of the gondola and says, piss off. You're on the set. This is the ducal party. And Sesh said, we're holding up Venice. And at that, we saw Peter
I remember that now. Yeah.
and all the stagehands doing the Eric Morecambe, and you know that the box with Shirley Bassett coming along underneath to weight it, and then finally Venice is now safe. So Sessions said goodbye. And then we both sidled off. We both. I tell that story at Anne Sessions' funeral, and it got everybody roaring with laughter.
Yes.
But we held up Venice. I mean, Venice was just doing this.
Wasn't it Dublin where the lady with the lads had ordered Guinness, because it was home of Guinness, isn't it? Dublin. And the boys in the dressing room had ordered pints of Guinness. But it was the new girl. So she walked with this plate of Guinness straight through from one wings to another. Turned and looked and saw 1,000 people going, God, Bennett, look at that. And the
Gaiety Theatre in Dublin is the only theatre that Peter, I'm sure Peter will agree with this, that had a little button in the front corner that he pressed as curtain came down, so that Neary's in the alleyway right next door to the theatre could prepare the half mugs. And by the time we got our makeup off and we were in Neary's, there was a lineup of cold Guinness with the cream on the top.
Wonderful.
Peter used to say, curtain down, iron curtain down, boop, press the button. And a line would come on in Neary's.
Yeah. Oh, there was
I think the only theatre where it actually gave a cue to a pub.
Yeah. We went round, I shook hands with the Crusader there. I often wonder whether we were entirely sober in our visits to Dublin. But I shook hands with there was a church down the Liffey River, you know the Liffey River, the bridge there. And it was on that side, and it must have been something to do with the air that preserved people. And this bloke there, lying there with the coffin lid off and his hands over, and you shook hands with it. And he was I'm sure I was sober. I'm sure I was, Lawrence. But things like that,
Jenny Marks and I were in Dublin, and we were doing the drinking. And we'd had a lot to drink and a very liquid lunch. And Jenny said, "Wow, it's 5 to 2. Where the hell's the gaiety? Oh my God!" So she said, "Look, grab that taxi." So we grabbed the taxi, got in the back seat, sat in, and Jenny said, "Quickly, quickly, Gaiety Theatre, Gaiety Theatre." "I'll just take my time. We do Gaiety Theatre. I'll just put this up on the meat." No, Gaiety Theatre now. We're late. Gaiety Theatre. I wonder where the Gaiety Theatre. No, quick. And then he got out of his car, opened the door and said, "It's there." And all we'd done was go in the left back door and out the right door. And the Gaiety was there. And he took a fee. That'll be 2 and 6pence.
Well,
Dear Jenny Marks. Oh, dear.
Yeah, is Jenny still with us?
Yes, she is. She's lost her husband, Jim.
Oh. She was lovely.
Jenny was one person we left behind. It was we did an American tour, and she fell in love with Jim Pfeiffer.
Oh.
And he was a secretary in Pierre Trudeau's
government
in Ottawa. And they married. Do you remember the marriage?
Yeah, I do.
We got
got
married.
a movie of it.
Yeah, we got married. They got married in Los Angeles.
Oh.
Yeah.
And we all did the catering. Betty Lloyd Jones did the trifles.
Yeah.
Somebody did the cake.
It was a real family
Yes,
without her family.
Sis and Flo
but
made
it
the
was
bridesmaids'
wonderful.
dresses. And they got married there, and then Jim followed the cruise, the tour around, and then he said, "Are you going to go back to England and I come over and bring you back?" And she said, "No, I'm going to stay here." And she waved us off at the airport. We were very tearful.
She's on one of my photographs on the wall next door, in Gondoliers.
She played Violetta, didn't she?
Yeah, she was lovely. I miss people like that. You were an understudy and you went on. You would pray that God you was on, because he'd get you through. If you were riven absolutely with nerves, he would get you through. He'd calm you down, get you through, and get you through your first phrase. He was wonderful. You could rely on him. That you didn't have to worry about, you know. If your feet were going to go like that, you worry, because they don't.
I used to like Coxeyfe as well, Bill Coxeyfe.
Oh, the windmill.
Yeah.
You were all over the
He was
place.
about 7 foot tall, he was like George Martin, all legs.
Bless him.
He played for my audition.
He was a lovely guy. I had Norman Meadmore for my audition. Norman Meadmore. I wouldn't have remembered that yesterday.
Because I'm tall, you see, and everybody in the D'Oyly Carte was 5'4". And I told you I was 5'7". Why were you 5'7"? Because of the Muppets. You see. And I went for a lesson, and I was at the academy, and my teacher said, "You're not having a lesson today. You're going for an audition." And I didn't tell you because I knew you'd get nervous. But I'm rather sorry I didn't, because what are you wearing? I was wearing a sloppy Joe sweater, a long skirt, little white socks, and a pair of pumps on my feet. And I had to make money to pay for my rent in the academy. I had looked on the list for jobs, and there were jobs cleaning tables, and there were jobs emptying ladies' toilets and God knows what. And then suddenly models required. I thought, oh, that's me. So I went along, and I went to René Claro, and René Claro was the competition to Mr. Teasy Weezy.
Oh.
And he came from America, and René Claro was expert on colour rather than the Mary Quant cut. But you went to, and he had a salon at the back of the American Embassy off Park Lane. So I went along for the audition, and René Claro said, "Do you mind us doing whatever you like with your hair?" I said, "Not at all." So he paid me £5 a night, which was fantastic. I went home and the girls said, "My God, that's paid our rent. We can eat. Oh, that'd be fantastic." So I would go, and one day I would be pink, the next day I would be green, the next day I would have a yellow stripe. And when I went for my audition, the vogue was to look like Marilyn Monroe in The 7-Year Itch.
Right.
You know, with the blonde bangs, white hair, and the black, just bit of growth on the parting. the famous picture of her over the grid, you know.
Yep.
And my hair was like that, with no makeup on. This hair, this sweater, this skirt, those pumps. And there I am at the Savoy
I
stage
bet
door.
she loved that.
And Bill Coxhive took my music and said, "Now what are you singing?" I said, "Well, I'm doing a Swan Like Gliding by Purcell." Oh, right. And I'm doing, I'm going to do Non Sapiu, Cherubino's aria from The Marriage of Figaro. Oh, and have you got any Gilbert and Sullivan? Yes. I'm going to do Mad Margaret's song from Ruddigore. Oh, are you? Oh, right, okay. So, I get on stage and I start the Swan Like Glide. Thank you! Thank you! Thank you very much. And I've no idea, there's just a blank darkness. You don't see anybody at an audition.
Really tell.
And thank you. That's enough of that. Thank you. Have you got anything else? I've got Non Sapiu, Cherubino's aria from. No, I don't think we want any Mozart this morning, do we? Have you been in Gilbert and Sullivan? And I've got Mad Margaret's song from Act 1, Ruddigore. Oh, we haven't had Ruddigore this morning, have we? No, only had gondoliers. Yes, let's have a little bit of your Ruddigore. Well, Peggy, acting came before. A lark! Do you really a lark? And I'm down on the... Are you going to act it, dear? Yes, I'm going to act it. Well, I was all over the place. Even Bill Coxhive was, what the fuck? I absolutely... I thought, well, I'm only on this stage at the Savoy once in my lifetime, so go for it, girl. So I finished and there was a slight... And out of the darkness comes this woman in the famous mink coat, with the matching mink hat, leather gloves on, leans on the podium and says, "Very good, dear. Very interesting." I had no idea it was Dame Bridget.
No.
And she said,
Nothing here.
"How tall are you?" I said, 5'7". You got that down, true love. Rather unfortunate. She's really rather tall. 5'7". Dear, dear. See, all our girls are. I suppose we could do that. Yes. And how old are you? I said, I'm 20. I'll be 21 in December. Oh dear. She's underage as well, true love. This is making it very inconvenient. Well, you see, we're going to America in September, and you are covered by my insurance, but only when you're 21 and over. So for the first 3 months of the American tour, you won't be insured. So we do need parental consent. So I said, oh, there'd be no problem there, because I could forge my father's signature, you see. There'd be no problem there. And then she said, and can I ask you, Miss Hadfield, is that your natural hair colour? And I couldn't remember what colour it was, having it changed on a Tuesday and a Thursday. I said, oh no, oh no, no. I'll model my head. You got that down, true love? She models her head. What do you model your head for? Well, you see, I'm a model at René Claro. Oh, René Claro, true love. Write that down, René Claro. And you model your head. And why do you model for René Claro? For money.
How sordid.
Yes.
She models her
Yeah.
head. Well, what do you need the money for, dear? And I said, to pay for my music. Because we don't get any music at the allowance at the Academy. She models her head at René Claro's for money to pay for her music. Right. Well, we're going to give you a contract and we're going to give you a form for your parents to sign. We'd like you to join the D'Oyly Carte. Would you like to join the D'Oyly Carte? Yes. Because as a little girl I'd gone with my grandfather to see the D'Oyly Carte at Manchester Opera House every year. So, oh God, oh yes, D'Oyly Carte. So I got outside and I suddenly realised that I'd joined the company. And many years later, when Peter and I met, Peter was great friends with Albert Truelove. And Truelove said, shall I tell you something? Miss Carte got back from those auditions and she put her feet on her resting stool and said, well, we've seen some today, haven't we? She said there was that girl with the blonde hair, for instance, too tall, too young, and that dreadful hairdo. Goodness me. But you know, Truelove, when she said, I do it for money, to pay for my music. And I thought, good on you, girl. I'm going to let you join this company.
Amazing. Yeah.
And that came back through Truelove, Peter telling me. And years later, when Peter and I were married, we were in Manchester. And we were at a reception and Miss Carte was there. And I had my hair mouse. Not like it is now, but it was nicely. It had been done at the hairdresser's and it was just down and flicked out. And it was just ordinary mouse, brown, uninteresting, awful colour. And Miss Carte sidled up to me and said, oh, Miss Hadfield, good evening. Your hair looks very nice tonight. But you're a sight better than at your audition. So she remembered.
Yeah.
She never forgot.
No. Well, as we were saying earlier, weren't we, with Harrogate.
Harrogate.
Buxton.
Buxton.
Yes.
But what was Buxton?
Well, when I took her to Buxton,
and
then we went and had a curry, and she missed the sorcerer that night.
All
She
right.
was too late back. She suddenly decided she wanted a curry, so I ended up in Ardwick Green.
Yeah.
So when Peter and I, several years later, went to her apartment at the Savoy to talk about an American tour, you can bring Miss Hadfield with you if you like. So Peter walks in, pours a drink for Miss Carte, pours a gin and tonic for me, we sit down, and Miss Carte said, oh, there's a knock at the door. That'll be our supper. Would you like to do, Mother? So I said yes, and she said, you will notice, as I went round the back of her chair, you will notice, Miss Hadfield, that it is a goat curry with very good spices in it. And so I said, oh, it is in memories of Buxton. So she'd remembered all those years going to that ridiculous restaurant in Ardwick Green.
She must have led a very sheltered life.
That's what Laura said. And then I started serving the curry, and she said, you notice there are peshwari naan on there? You'd never had a peshwari naan, had you? No. She said, have you looked on the mantelpiece? And I looked on the mantelpiece, and there were the 2 pieces of Blue John that she paid £3,500 for.
Oh, yes, I remember you in London. You told that story.
And she said, "There's the Blue John."
Yeah.
And I said, "Gosh, you've still got that after all these years." She said, "Oh, I treasure those 2.
Oh.
She said, "I occasionally dust them myself."
Oh.
So there's the goat curry, and there are the 2 Blue John vases. And I'm 4, 5, 6 years on. I'm now married to Peter, and we're sitting in the Savoy. But she
amazing.
Went down a little memory road with that. I'm sure
she was always nice to me. And she in the letter she wrote to me, she said, "You're the best Mad Margaret I've seen," and I treasured that because you never know when you're going to need it.
Did you keep the letter?
Yeah, I actually, after Harrogate, when we went just recently,
you gave it to somebody, didn't you?
I gave it to the Australian lady.
Because I was saying to
Diana.
Yes.
Because I was
She's
saying
got
to Lawrence,
2 letters.
Yeah, my greatest regret was she wrote with her pen and green ink
a
handwritten letter to thank me for the day in Buxton, and I lost it.
Oh. Well, I gave them to Diana, was her name, wasn't it?
Dinah Burley.
That's it.
Yes.
That's it. I gave her 1 or 2 things. Shall I tell you, when going abroad, Lawrence, how you still got people who were in the D'Oyly Carte, I do not know. How they used to get us all together, get us around America, get us all back.
Because it was a big company, really, wasn't it?
When you think, I used to have all this information, but when you added it up, there was about 500 or 600 people, and yet you'd look at a show going on and think it was just us. But all the backup and stuff.
The only
Anyway,
thing we
they
never
got
took
us.
to America with the orchestra. We took the leader
Yes.
and the conductor.
We took, that's
But the
it.
union wouldn't allow any
No.
musicians to go over.
So we used to have an American. We used to make some good friends with them,
Yeah,
didn't we?
yeah.
But we were in New York, and we were in New York for several weeks. I can't remember, about 6 weeks or something. And I brought my parents over. I was an only child. So my parents came over, and we got talking to this American called Vince. And we decided we were going to go walk down. He was going to take us down Fifth Avenue. It was such a famous avenue. So there's me, Eric Greenall, my parents, and this Vince, walking down Fifth Avenue, and this little bloke passed us, got a raincoat on and everything. And Vince said, "Oh, Guy, hey, that's your king. You're, the guy that abdicated and and we said, you mean the Duke of Windsor?" "Yeah, that's it, the Duke of Windsor." Before we could stop him, he was off. Went down, tapped this little bloke on the shoulder, and the Duke of Windsor turned round. And my jaw hit. I thought, how do you address a bloke in a raincoat that's an ex-king? And, and he walked up and he doffed his hat, and my mother never forgot it. A king doffed his hat to my mother.
Wow.
He thought it was wonderful. And he chatted, he was charming, utter charm. That guy really was.
Well, he obviously didn't have Wallace Simpson with him then.
No, he didn't have
Right.
Wallace
He's on his
Simpson.
own.
No, but he was utterly charming. And my mother, I remember my dad saying, "Do I curtsy?" No, you don't, Dad, just be nice. And he was absolutely wonderful. And we never ever forgot it. Eric Greenall remembered it the last time I saw him.
Yeah.
About 100 years since then, But, oh, it was lovely.
Yeah.
You never know who you're going to meet.
You don't
With
indeed.
the D'Oyly Carte, you never know who's a fan.
Well,
they look normal, Believe me, they look normal. But they are very into what you would never dream of asking questions. That I remember being flummoxed when they ask you a musical. I'm not that good, I go for the gags. I can tell you about the jokes, but I couldn't tell you about any of that. Anyway,
Abby did mention this morning, you were saying about sort of you never know who you're going to meet. Telling a story about a vet that she visited, and he
Roy Crawford here in
recognised her.
In what?
Roy Crawford, the vet that used to be in
Oh,
Spalding.
right, yeah.
And he was busy dealing with a Doberman at my kennels, and I brought the dog up here to have it it was prolapsing. And Roy Crawford looked up and said, "You're not Abby Johnson. You're Abby Hatfield, aren't you?" And I said, "Pardon?" "In Spalding, with a vet."
Wow, there you are,
And he was a Savoyard.
Yeah.
He was a devotee.
You just-
Paid up every year to
You
get
never
his
know.
Savoy magazine. Knew all about Peter and my wedding and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. You never know.
And I was
No.
telling Lawrence as well, how we always had to have the little black dress in our suitcase.
Oh, yeah,
Because
just
we
in
always
case.
sang for our supper.
Yeah.
And one time we went to the British Embassy, and it was when JFK
God,
and
yeah.
Jacqueline Kennedy were, he was British ambassador.
Oh.
Long before he was president. And there we were.
We went round, just a few of us, to meet Kennedy when he was president. And it was the Cuban crisis.
Oh, yes.
We were all, do you remember we were
We
all
were
in New
we were all
York?
given the option to fly home if we wanted.
Oh, it was a big thing. We were going to die if we weren't good, And we're all on the phone going to our parents and relatives and going, "Don't worry, we're all right. We're going to be covered by the British Convention of something or other, and don't worry." And my father went, "I'm not worried. What's he talking about?"
Yeah. They sat us all down backstage
Britain,
and asked us which of us
Britain
wanted
were
to fly home.
Really?
Yeah.
But-
Kennedy had moved the carriers, the aircraft
Oh,
carriers,
yeah.
into Cuba.
And we were supposed to be meeting him. We went to the White House, and he was up there on the. He had charisma even up on the top of the staircase. And he came down and said, "I'll be back. I'll come and see you guys." And off he went. And we were all gobsmacked, but he was rushing around saving America from Cuba and what have you. That was, you don't know who you're going to meet.
You don't indeed. No. I personally think that it was a crime that Decca didn't record you on any of their recordings except for the Mikado. Do you know what the reason for this was?
No, it was a traditional thing. It had happened to all mezzos,
Oh,
Joyce Wright, all of them previously. You won't find many recordings. Mind you won't find many recordings, period. You know, we invented it, I think. But no, I did the Mikado. I was sad not to. There's not many more, because I think Pinafore came after that and I wasn't in that. But the Ruddigore one, now the Ruddigore was Hannah Barbara, wasn't
Yes,
it?
now I was going to mention that we are lucky in the fact that we have you as Mad Margaret, in the voice anyway of Margaret in the cartoon of Ruddigore.
Yeah, I got
and
that, yeah.
also as Lady Angela in the BBC TV performance of Patience. So although the visuals are lost, the audio does still exist.
Well, I'm glad.
And
I've never
so
heard that.
you know, we do have that. But from that cartoon of Ruddigore, here we have Peggy Ann Jones and Kenneth Sanford with the glorious Act 2 duet.
I once was a very abandoned person.
Making the most of evil chances,
Nobody could conceive a worsen.
even in all the old romances.
I blush for my wild extravagances. But be so kind to bear in mind,
We were the victims of circumstances. That is one of our blameless dances. I was once an exceedingly odd young lady.
suffering much from spleen and vapor.
Clergymen thought my conduct shady.
She didn't spend much upon linen drapers.
It certainly entertained the gapers. My ways were strange beyond all range.
Paragraphs got into all the papers. The only part of respectable papers.
In 1971, you got to take on a completely new role, that of Mrs. Partlet in The Sorcerer. It must have been great getting to create a role that people wouldn't have seen on the professional stage for some 30 years.
Yeah, I made that part a little bit bigger than it was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
I was good at that. But it was, working with Ken again was a pleasure, a joy. I knew what he was going to say and think before he did, I think.
Well, it's good if you've had that working relationship
Absolutely.
with a particular performer. You can cover each
Irreplaceable.
other's backs, but also
Yeah,
you can sort of build on the characters between you,
Absolutely.
can't you?
I would put a few gags in here and there. But it was the rubber chops of mine, my rubber face, I think I wasn't afraid to show. I remember seeing some shows in America from the cheapest seats and thought it was wonderful because I got a good show from quite cheap seats. It wasn't a cheap experience is what I'm trying to say.
And facial expressions are so important, aren't they,
Aren't
for
they just?
bringing over a character
Yeah.
and giving the subtle gags.
Yeah, and of course with Mad Margaret,
Yes.
it's a gift, isn't it? Really, And you could really, if you're not careful, but you had to not take the attention off the person whom you're acting with.
No. And with Margaret, I suppose, it's also difficult that you don't want to go too over the top and make, the illness into a joke. It's that fine line, isn't it?
Is it me? But when you think about the story of Mad Margaret, her little story, so I used to try and not make her embarrassing or medically unfit.
No.
Or make it so that I sounded medically unfit. You never know.
But it's a lovely part, isn't it?
Oh,
yes.
Wonderful. Wonderful, as I say.
You must have had a part that you particularly enjoyed playing. Which one was it? You've mentioned Margaret a few times. Was it Margaret, or was there something, another part that you really enjoyed?
I think the one that I didn't enjoy was Iolanthe.
Right.
There weren't many gags in Iolanthe. It was something that I was not used to, and I used to have to try very hard to keep a straight face. But on one of the nights that we used to have in the theatre in London, the last night of the run in London, we used to do the overture of one show and the first act of another show and the second act of another show, and we used to cram in another overture. And we often used to do trial by jury with all the Gilbert and Sullivan characters represented. And I always used to go as Mad Margaret because it meant I could fool around and be a mad lady again. I loved that. I loved it. But one of the shows we did was the first act of Iolanthe. And I was dared to do this, and I did it, and it brought the house down, was I came on, because she's at the bottom, she's living at the bottom of that stream. Is
yes.
And I came on with a big mask, glass mask, a snorkel, and a tube going up, a spear with a fish on it, big fish that way, and big flippers on my feet, which went and I just got on and the whole house erupted. It was so funny. And I did enjoy that.
I should think Miss Carte was not very amused.
She never said anything. No, she was very good. She never said
She wasn't
anything.
amused by the donkey.
She was got very worried about my lack of knickers in the first act of Ruddigore.
Or the split in your skirt.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I hated that costume. I used to mess about with the flowers and things, stick flowers in most unbecoming places. But I didn't like it. I didn't think it was right. But Peter Gough, wasn't it, that they used to do? Yeah, Peter Gough. She wrote me a lovely letter saying, "We will make sure that you are a demure Mad Margaret," and she was so nice.
You with knickers.
Yes, with my knickers became a good point. I don't know. I used to walk through life and get brickbats thrown at me, but never mind. I don't know what I was. What else
about
you asked?
Phoebe?
Phoebe.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Yes.
Because
that was my top favourite.
Yes.
Yeah, but you couldn't beat Wilfrid and Phoebe together. We used to knit together. I could remember everything that he said or thought. So therefore, we could really evolve. We made the characters real. I think.
Yes.
You don't want too much. Muck, don't get near me, Wilfrid, because the audience are not going to believe that she could really risk marrying him and then run like hell,
Because
No,
Ken
it
was
was
a very
Ruddigore.
formidable shampoo, wasn't he?
Eh?
That dreadful hair.
Oh,
and
yeah,
the skull
yeah.
cap, but he was not. Not a pretty character at all.
He got fed up with that and decided that he wanted it all shaved off. So he became dead attractive. You've got to be a bit realistic for the audience to sort of say.
He used to black his teeth out, didn't he, as well?
Yeah, he was a game lad.
Didn't look as if he'd
But you
barred
don't
for
want
years.
him to look so that the audience go, oh, poor girl, oh dear. You want to go, I bet she's not long with him. Anyway, I forgot what I've got here now. Can we have a bit of music,
Yeah.
Maestro, please?
Luckily, and you might not know this, a number of pirate recordings were made of D'Oyly Carte performances during the late 60s and 70s. And here we have Peggy Ann Jones with one of Phoebe's songs from Act 1 of Yeoman of the Guard.
Oh yeah, Ruddigore, the film that we did the soundtrack for was Ruddigore, and that went together quite well because most of my work was with Ken, but they wanted extra at the end of it so that they could poke in bits of sound and that. So could you two stand in front of a mic and cry and laugh and then, sure, anything. We stood there and we were crying, then we were laughing, then we got the giggles, then we got more giggles, and I think we were absolutely useless at it. We started well, but we just laughed ourselves silly because it was so stupid. Yeah. Do you know, Lawrence, if there are any recordings of Tate-a-Tate, it was called?
Yes.
With John Reed and me.
Yes, I have a copy.
Well, I had one for years, then I lent it to someone. It was, I remember one story about us being on a plane going to America, and Sis Blaine and Flo were there, and we hit an air pocket, and the plane went down.
This is me.
And
My legs in the air.
awful. But Sis Blaine, who must have been 80 then, the wardrobe lady, said, "Oh, that was a bit bumpy, wasn't it?"
And I was in the ladies at the time.
Oh, that's right.
And I got my tights around my ankle. My legs went up in the air. All the Elizabeth Arden stuff came off the wall. I was covered in hand cream and cologne. My hat was like that, and I came out and I looked at John Reed and I said, "I now can announce to the entire company that I am the only soprano in the world who can pee uphill." And John Reed told that story many times. And then when he saw me in Buxton a few years ago, he said, "Abby, you did say that, didn't you? Because otherwise I'd be lying." He said, "You did say it to me, didn't you?" And that was the
That
same.
was
That
that-
was the same flight where they carried Anne Sessions off. She paralysed with fear.
Oh,
She went
promise,
like
yes,
that.
I forgot that.
And
Yeah.
they carried her
yeah.
off literally like that.
Yeah.
I had to put her on the. We hit an air pocket. We went.
That was terrifying.
And there was John Ellison sitting with a glass with ice cubes from the drink on the seat in front. Sitting there. And I came through the curtains. I am the only woman who can pee uphill. John Reed.
There was
Oh,
some good stories on that. Keep a copy, won't you?
Yes.
Because I'd love to hear it again. Oh,
Oh.
lovely time.
Send it one through to you.
Oh, you're a dear.
And I've got another lovely story for
All
you.
right.
Ah, yes. We were in Bristol, and Cary Grant came
Oh,
from
yes.
Bristol. I can't remember what his real name was. I should do.
I do know.
But he was made Cary Grant for film, and his mother was in a mental institution in Bristol, and she
The
was,
lovely theatre doctor.
She was looked after by Mickey Hickey, the
Mickey Hickey.
theatre doctor.
Oh, he was
And
a dear.
Cary Grant came back one time from America, went to see his mother, and Mickey Hickey said, "I'm sorry, I've got to rush, Cary, because I'm going to see the D'Oyly Carte tonight." He said, "Can I come? I'd love to see the D'Oyly Carte." And he was in a white shirt and a beautiful blue suit with his fantastic silk tie and the blue-grey hair, very suntanned, surely out of a bottle.
He was
But
nice.
he wanted to come backstage with Mickey Hickey. He wanted to meet John Reed. And he said, "Can I go round and see the ladies of the chorus?" And Marion Martin was right behind the door, and she was just soaping out her eyebrows to paint on her eyebrows for the Mikado. So that's not the prettiest of sights,
No,
is it?
no.
With your hair in pins.
We had to do it
and
properly
her
then.
hairnets on, and
Yeah.
her eyebrows soaked out, and she'd just got a towel wrapped round her bosom, and the door opened, and Mickey Hickey said, are you decent girls? Somebody wants to say hello to you." And we all went, and we all fell off our chairs, because Cary Grant came into the room, and he went up to Marion
It was
Martin,
lovely.
and he said, "What on earth happened to your eyebrows?" And Marion went, I've just soaked them off. And we were all absolutely creaming ourselves in
Yeah.
this dressing room. Oh, he was handsome.
Oh, he was a lovely
He was-
bloke. I was out with the said Mickey. He was taking me
Mickey
out
Hickey.
at the time, Mickey Hickey. And
A little
we-
Irish,
we
little
were in
Irish leprechaun, wasn't he? He used
Yeah.
to sit on the side of the stage and drink
He-
whiskey with Peter.
He was lovely. He was lovely. Mickey was. He was kind too, but he was a very fine
Because he was a
doctor.
theatre doctor.
He
Right.
was a
In
theatre
attendance
doctor.
for every theatre.
Yeah.
And,
But-
and Mickey Hickey was on call 24/7. Anybody collapsed on the side of the stage,
He was
ring the
there.
theatre doctor. The
Yeah.
number was in the prompt corner for Peter to ring
Right.
straight away.
We were in a restaurant, and Cary Grant came in. He was visiting his mother. He used to do it about once a year,
Yes,
didn't he?
he did, yeah.
And he came to our table, and the whole restaurant went, because
He
it
was
was a
stunningly
handsome
handsome.
man. I'm afraid I let myself down and went, too, as well. But he was handsome.
What was his real name?
I can't remember. I will remember in the middle of the night, I expect. This is my usual thing. Oh, dear. Happy days.
Yes. The D'Oyly Carte family really seems to be a strong one. In touring around and meeting up with former members, so many people still seem to be in contact with their onstage colleagues years after they've left or after the closure of the company in 1982. Obviously, you're still very friendly with Abby, but do you keep in touch with anybody else?
As much as I can, yes. As much as I can. It was a very strong, welding
Christmas
friendship.
Christmas
Yeah.
cards every
It
year.
depends
There's a-
where you
there's a
live.
newsletter
Yes.
in it.
I mean, sometimes Abby was only up the road, but there was one or two others that were near. But we're getting older now, and we're losing people.
Yeah. Vivian
Yes.
Carmen used to live in Derby.
Yeah.
Blossom.
Pauline Wales.
Pauline Wales.
Pauline was Nottingham, wasn't she? But if we were close enough, but you know, well, I'm not telling you this, but when you get older, you're less inclined to get in the car and scramble all over the place, you know.
I wouldn't want to drive into London now.
No.
We've done it a few times, haven't we,
We
Mum?
have.
With people.
And that's why I use the
Encouraging.
train to come on these visits.
Yeah.
He keeps horrifying me by saying, there are only a few of us left. I am going to, with Linda Ann Hutchinson, get together and we're going to have one more.
One last
One
movie.
more. I said, well, for heaven's sake, Peter, pick somewhere in the Midlands.
Yeah.
I said, because Peggy
Somewhere-
and I will not be driving and getting
We
a
can't do
tube
it
and
again.
going into London. So
No.
don't pick the He said, oh, we thought the Colosseum would be a good place. I said, no. A
Too
lot
far
of people
away.
still up north, you know. Joy Ellison would like to go, you see.
Yeah.
Now she's lost Johnny Ellie.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
there'd be a lot of people who'd make a lot more effort if it was just central.
Yeah.
Either Manchester or Birmingham.
You
or
can,
something
you
like
can,
that.
yeah. But even then, most of us are getting on a bit.
Well, you wouldn't be doing the driving. I'd be driving you.
Oh well, yeah.
I was her chauffeur to Harriet.
Well,
We must have been playing Plymouth or somewhere where there's boats, and we got invited, and I'm afraid it was the girls' dressing room, invited to a submarine. Now, I've never been on a submarine. It's not every girl that gets invited on a submarine. So we all went after the show. They came into the audience and we ended up on a Canadian submarine with the delightful mariners that were from somewhere in Canada. I don't know where they were from, all over I expect. They took us out. We had a lovely meal with them. We fell for the golden rivet, which is something golden that you have to look for if you're a girl. You fall for it every time. And it's just one thing that sailors do, these funny little things that they make you do. It was wonderful. And that man that I got talking to, his name was Pollard, Steve Pollard. And he remained a good friend until just quite recently when I think he died. But the postcards and letters dried up. But all that time, now that was from Canada. Another guy who writes books on elephants, and he was lovely, being over in England to Buxton. And he's lasted that long. Friendship even across the seas. There's something about the cart that really makes you friends with everybody.
I've always been amazed at what support we have
Yeah,
in America.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, I could see the novelty of it, Yeoman of the Guard, because Miss Cart absolutely insisted that everything was correct. Because there's the classic story of her, she used to do spot checks.
Yes, she did.
And True Love used to go up with her in a chauffeur-driven car, and they came one day to a matinee in Birmingham. And Miss Cart did the Princess Margaret bit, the dark glasses and the headscarf, and pretended that nobody knew. Only Peter would know she was in the auditorium. And she would make notes with True Love.
Yes, she
Make a
did.
note, True Love. Make a note, True Love. And on this occasion, we were all summoned on stage. And her comment to the fairies was, will you please make sure that your wings aren't crumpled?
Oh, yeah.
Because we used to sit in the dressing room like that,
Oh,
see,
you-
and
you
our
forget they're only
wings got
wire.
bent. Will you please straighten each other's wings out
Yeah.
before you go on stage? And Mr. Ellison and Mark, I can't remember his surname, he was only a chorus, he became understudy to Donald. Mark Rowlands.
Can't remember.
Anyway, Mark and John Ellison, come here. So they both stepped forward like naughty little schoolboys. She said, why is the Earl of Northumberland wearing the Duke of Sussex coronets?
She would know.
And Mark said, well, you see, I've got a very big head and Mr. Ellison has a very small head. So rather than put newspaper in that one so that it fits him, we just swap coronets. She said, well, don't do it, because those costumes have cost me a fortune, and down to the buckles on their shoes, they are correct.
Yeah. She was
And when Sis
very
and Flo
good.
put them in the wardrobe, and they put them out on your place in the dressing room, do not alter the cuffs or the insignias or the collar. And she noted that Johnny Ellie and Mark were wearing the wrong crowns.
Yeah.
One had got 4 balls and one had got 5 balls.
Yeah.
Yes.
She was very correct
Yeah.
on that. But she had a history, I think, of the aristocracy in her family. But what always used to get me was that was a successful company. But she would only pay out for the Iolanthe fairy wigs to be dressed once a year.
Well,
And
they
when
were
we used
straight
to get
ones,
them
though,
back-
weren't
Eh?
They were straight ones, though, weren't they?
Yeah, but they were stiff with hair lacquer. They were. We always used to call them
But we
crash
used to-
helmets.
we used to have a
That
witness.
that photograph you've got of the rows of fairies like that, you could have knocked and made a sound on the wigs, you know. No, it was hard, and it's hard to get a hairpin in something that's solid, you know, very solid. I do once it was on. You could knock the scenery over with it, you know, couldn't you?
I remember once doing Iolanthe, and we're tripping hither, tipping thither, dum dum da da dum da da dum dum, and we're late for going on. Act 1, we're not on stage, beginners and openers. We're ignoring Peter. And Betty, I told you, had the car accident, so she got this very bad
Oh,
knee.
she got.
So she used to have great trouble getting down any stairs. So she's the last fairy on, and she's catching up with us as best she can. But she has been sitting in her dressing room like this. She's got up, and she's attached a cardigan to her wings.
Oh yeah.
And there is this bright nylon cardigan hung on the back of her costume, and we're all going, jumping hither, jumping,
Trying to get it.
cardigan. Oh,
Do you remember
dear.
the contact lenses? I don't know who it was that was wearing contact lenses, but we were finding imaginary shells and things when the ladies come on in Pirates.
Oh, yes.
And, you know, we go, oh, look what I've got. Nothing there, but, you know. This lassie came up and said, girls, I've lost a contact lens. And immediately, most of us anyway, looked down, and you daren't put a foot anywhere.
On
If
the
it-
stage.
And we didn't want to tread on the... we found it.
Did it?
Found it in the end, yeah. But there were an awful lot of bottoms shown to the audience that day because we were down, you know, on our hands and knees. But there were some strange things happen that you never know. You never know your luck. There were Plymouth again, and rainy afternoon, and we were doing Mikado. And beginning of Act 2, you've got Yum Yum sitting down.
Braid the raven
Yes,
hair.
I am in. Eh?
I am indeed beautiful.
Yes, I am indeed beautiful. And 2 sailors in the front row went, "You sure are, honey."
Son who's
that was Jenny Toy.
Yeah,
Johnny, no, somebody else we lost.
I've got a lovely story of the Mikado, and I think it was at Birmingham, but Eric Greenall was a real joker.
Oh, that was a
And
woman.
we were all
Yes.
all lined up to come on Train of Little Ladies at the beginning, and he tied all our plaits together.
Oh yes.
And we used to come down the
Naughty.
ladies, and then we part and go right and left. And of course,
Boing, boing, boing.
wigs coming off. He did get into trouble for that.
We didn't often get into trouble, but we did once or twice carry it a bit too far. Perhaps, you know. But, oh dear. Oh, it's brought a smile to my face going over all these wonderful, wonderful memories.
Oh, it's wonderful to hear them as well, so thank you for sharing them.
It's such fun.
I think Lawrence is going to have to do the Peggy and Abby show, and everybody else will be on another show.
I'll tell you how we finish it off.
How?
How you were working out,
In friendship's name?
no, the Gracie Fields.
Wish me luck as you
Wave me goodbye! Here we go, here we go.
I'm having that for my funeral.
All right.
I'm going out to that.
Turned out nice today.
Yeah. Turned out nice today. No, that was George Formby. Got the wrong one there.
Yeah,
Right accent there.
yeah.
Yeah.
The sound of
I rang
right.
Peggy the other day and I said, I'm working out my funeral. And I cannot remember where the quartet is from. In Friendship's Name, which,
Yeah.
is it Yeoman?
No.
And Peggy said, it's Iolanthe. I said, oh, good. Right, so I'm having that. I think that's lovely.
Yeah.
And then I'm going, and so Peggy said, well, what are you going out to? And I said, wish me luck.
Definitely. I've done everything on there
Fine.
and a lot more, but
So you left the company in 1973. What did you get up to after you left the cart?
quite a lot really. But the memorable thing was Dad's Army.
Right.
I did. They were decided to do a stage show, and we did 6 months, and we had the Dad's Army people, and then 4 of us played the rest of the world.
Right.
I think there were a few playing Hitler as well. Wartime came into it quite a bit. They were wonderful. They were so good. They did 6 months in Shaftesbury Avenue. That was it, the Shaftesbury Avenue. And there were just one, I think, the Scottish guy didn't do it.
Oh,
He didn't-
John Laurie.
John Laurie, that's it. But he was immensely old by then. I should talk. I'm 86 now. God. But he couldn't see himself doing it, so he was the only one that didn't do it. But the rest were fabulous. Dad's Army, I'll never forget it.
I never, unfortunately, saw the stage show. I've got the soundtrack of it, but I loved it as a TV show and a radio show. So it must have been great fun.
It was marvellous, yes. It was lovely to see the iconic people do it, and they were good to us.
Oh, that's good.
We played the rest of England, you know. Great. But it was fabulous.
You were in Phantom, weren't you?
Yes, I
And
did
Evita.
Phantom of the Opera 2 years.
And were you into Evita?
Evita,
You were one of the
I was her
aristocracy.
mother.
You were aristocracy.
Yeah,
weren't you?
yeah, aristocracy. And her mother. That was a bit of a downer because it starts with her funeral, and it's not "Wish me good luck as you wave
Was
me
that
goodbye."
Elaine Page?
No, it's after Elaine Page. I've forgotten the name of the girl after, but I did 2 years of that. I did ever so much television.
Right.
A
You did a
lot,
lot of adverts, didn't you?
a lot of adverts. Yes, always seemed to be eating something.
Frozen peas.
Pussycats. I'd always wondered how they did that, but they got me as the mother of the unsuccessful pussycat who didn't like the food.
Oh.
So that gave the face a bit of a workout. But I often wondered how they did it. And the woman came with cats in 2 baskets, but she hadn't fed them, you see, so that they ate the food. Well, she opened the thing, one of them went and gone. And they spent the rest of the day looking for it, never found it. But there was a lot of Kentucky Fried Chicken. Oh boy, I was sick of chicken at the end. 2 Guinness ads.
Mhm.
We were very giggly at the end because you have to do the bottled Guinness,
Right.
and it's a bit fizzy. So that shut us up for a while. We were a bit had it a bit. 2 milk ads.
Right. So you certainly kept busy.
Oh yeah,
I think we learnt when we let the D'Oyly Carte was a solid year's contract.
yeah.
Bridget D'Oyly Carte never sacked anybody. They were discreetly asked to leave for one reason or another, or move on. But
Right.
so you knew you had 12 months of work,
Yeah.
and then suddenly to leave the D'Oyly Carte, and it's like, I mean, when I first left the D'Oyly Carte, it was like 1 minute I was in a pantomime, the next minute I was in a summer season, Then I'm doing something. I'm doing the Great Waltz at Drury Lane, and then I'm understudy to Joe Gascoigne in 42nd Street. I'm up and down and blah blah blah.
One job
And you
leads
are-
to another, though, doesn't
That's
it?
right, and you're waiting for your
Yeah.
agent to ring.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're hanging on the phone. I don't know where I'll be next June. Sorry.
It's unnerving.
Yeah.
If you do one ad, that pays for you to afford to not take the first job that's offered, because it's not always a good job for you. But if you're hungry, you'll do anything. And I ended up doing a blue movie. Now, you needn't look shocked, Lawrence. It was about a lady called Jenny Jones, and she was a organising prostitute, and I just had to play the landlady of the most popular house in town, and I had to use a bit of bad language. I didn't tell Miss Bridget D'Oyly Carte what I was doing, but it paid for a few meals, and it was well worth doing.
Yeah.
See, that was my fault. I finally got a contract as resident singer for P&O.
For what?
For P&O.
Oh, right, yeah.
So you stay for your first year, then it's the world cruise. I might as well stay for another 3 months. Then you stay for another month, then you stay for another 2 months. Oh, I might as well do the Caribbean, yeah?
That
Or they're going
sounds
off to
lovely.
Australia, and you go on and on and on.
Yeah.
And my failing was coming back after the ships. Who are you? To my agent, well, you should bloody know. You've been taking my commission all this
10%,
time, and
yeah.
I've been on the ships.
Yeah.
Your face isn't known now, Abby.
No.
Because London actually was very much like a village. Everybody knew everybody at all the auditions. You know,
Yeah,
everybody
you met
auditioning for
people,
Les
didn't
Miserables.
you? Yeah.
Is everybody auditioning for Showboat? Oh, God, are we all going to audition for Anything Goes? You know, so...
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you went to sea,
But age got me in the end. I just got too old.
well, marriage got me. I married
Yeah.
John, of course, and came...
I had a swap for marriage, yeah. I didn't get married till later on, and then
And
that
John
put
said to me, well, I'm leaving the
end.
sea, you give up your singing, because I'm not starting a kennels, and then you hopping off down to London and being away for 6 months.
Yeah.
So it's fair's fair, so we shook hands on it, and that's how it's been ever since.
Did you do many TV commercials?
No, I didn't do any TV commercials, I did do TV.
Yeah.
I was
Oh,
in
yeah, I know you
Rover's
did.
Return. I mean, I was in Coronation Street.
We were on
Which is why
television at the same time, weren't we? Do you
Yeah.
We were saying this earlier.
Family at War.
You
Emmerdale.
did I've forgotten the name of it now, and I did Mantovani's show, and it was on
Yes, I
at the
did,
same time.
Jack Point.
Jack
Point.
Point. That was it. Yeah,
I'd like to see Jack Point again. Yeah.
I'd like to see it. I'm not that mad about seeing me, but I did 3 songs from The Sound of Music. That was like a frightening thing to do, because when you went into the studio, there's about 1,000 blokes holding musical instruments. And I'd never heard the arrangement before. The noise was awful. Oh. And I was stood by the conductor, and it's too close to be near an orchestra. It was awful.
Yeah, I suppose you're used to them being sort of
Yeah,
on the
they're all
floor
down
under you.
there. They're down there.
Down where you belong.
Yeah.
And yeah, you know, when we were on tour, they in the pit, with being in the Musicians Union, had touring allowance.
Yeah,
We
we
never
did.
did. Because Miss Carte was a private company, and she wouldn't apply to the Arts Council for any help because she got millions in the bank. Why should they give it to her? So
Yeah.
we used to tour on our £10 and £6, and the orchestra used to get the best digs because they
Yeah.
won 3 times as much as us,
Yeah.
because they were members of the MU.
It was a long time, and I always remember Gordon Mackenzie, when we get to a new place, he would be the one that we'd all go and see. Have you been round all the restaurants? Yeah, great, got one down the road, 3 and 6, three courses. Well, it knew.
Do you remember Betty Lloyd-Jones coming into the dressing room at the beginning of every fortnight? Now then, the best laundrette. You go down the road, and it's
Yeah.
and don't go to the first one because the soap is rubbish. You don't get a lather on it. But if you go to the next road, turn left, and then first right, that laundrette has got an offer on. You get a dry for free.
Yeah.
So there we were with our little blue bags.
Yeah.
And going down to a different laundrette, not the first one near the theatre.
And we all
Tuesdays were wash days.
we
went
had
back
3
on
and
the
6. You remember? Brown Windsor soup. I'll never forget Brown Windsor. I've never had it since. Oh God.
I can remember being starving in a London season, and I was sharing with Merrill Dickinson, Anna Nelson, Vanessa Gold, and myself. And Merrill Dickinson cleared the tables at the charge of the Light Brigade, which was a long Russian bar going down to Trafalgar Square.
Oh.
And Anna Nelson, the guy in the Wimpy bar right next door to the Odeon in Leicester Square,
Yeah.
had taken a shine to Anna, and he used to say, if you and your 4 friends want to come round after the show, you can have whatever's left because I'll have closed up. And we used to have a Wimpy and a portion of chips cut into 4.
Oh.
We'd have to wait till after
Yeah.
the show, then we'd beetle off down into Leicester Square and have a very cold Wimpy. Long before McDonald's.
It's amazing how we used to.
I'm
We
amazed
never
we didn't all have
bothered.
ulcers.
But we never thought it was wrong, did we?
No.
And eventually, when the assisted, they used to give us a touring allowance, didn't they? I can't remember when.
I never
when
had
they
touring
did.
allowance.
I did. So you, it must have been the late 60s.
Well, I left before you.
Yeah. It must have been the late 60s then. That we eventually, she
'Cause that was
did
the
give
battle with
in,
Equity.
but she
Equity
had.
Musician Union, they fought
Yeah.
vehemently over it.
But yeah, and we used to make that money last, didn't we?
Because I was saying to Lawrence, you know, we used to have to pay for it. When we got your money, you got your stamp taken out of it, your
Yeah.
insurance taken out of
Oh,
it.
yeah.
And then you started at the beginning of the week. Your digs, your travel.
You'd have to buy all your makeup.
All
that,
your
that
makeup.
used to annoy me.
Well, I was telling Lawrence about how we used to have communal in our dressing room. Do you remember Betty mixing all the Trex together?
Yeah.
Trex to take our makeup off with.
Yeah.
Rattling it up in a bowl.
You
and
don't
dolloping
go
it out.
near a chip shop. Buy it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Peggy Ann and Abby, thank you so much for sparing the time this afternoon to relive some of your memories. It's been really wonderful having this opportunity to talk to you both. So, thank you very much for agreeing to do this.
Thanks
It's
for
been a great
asking.
pleasure. It's been like going down there.
Been most enjoyable.
Well, that's great.
And I shall
Thank
be
you.
laughing for the rest of the week.
Oh, well, that's super. Thank you. Thank you so much.